Aperture 3 lets you embed metadata in your master files, and it also lets you include metadata with your images when you export them. So you'll always have the information you need, whether you're using Aperture, Photoshop, or any other application that can read metadata. To export metadata with your photos, just turn on the Include Metadata checkbox in each export preset, and any metadata that you've added in Aperture is automatically embedded in the JPEGs, TIFFs, or PSD files that you export. If you open the exported photos in another program, such as Preview, the information that you added to the photos using Aperture will be visible as embedded metadata. To export master files with IPTC metadata embedded, select the images that you want to export and choose File, Export, Masters. Choose where to save the exported files, specify any subfolder or naming formats that you want, and change the metadata pop-up menu to Include IPTC. Aperture can embed IPTC metadata whether the master file is a raw image or not. If you'd rather not embed the metadata in the file itself, you can tell Aperture to create a sidecar XMP file. Then, just click Export Masters to begin the export. You can also embed metadata into the master files themselves without exporting. Select the photos you want, then choose Metadata, Write IPTC metadata to master. Then click the Write button. Whether you're embedding metadata into your exported photos or embedding it into your originals, Aperture makes it easy to include important information with your photos. Aperture 3 gives you greater control over exporting versions of your images, masters, and even entire projects. To export an image, just select it and choose Export Version from the File menu. Select an export preset. You can choose popular formats like JPEG, TIFF, and PSD. You can use the current name or define a new naming scheme with the Name Format pop-up menu. When you're ready, click the Export Versions button. You can modify export presets or create your own from scratch. To do that, simply choose Edit, and then create a new preset with exactly the format, size, resolution, color space, and image quality settings that you need. To export original master files, select the images and choose Export Masters from the File menu. You can choose to embed IPTC metadata in the new files, or you can export the image with the metadata stored in a separate XMP sidecar file. After making your selections, click Export Masters. Exporting versions and masters occurs in the background, so you can keep working during the process. Aperture 3 also allows you to export projects as a new Aperture library, which you can archive or move to another Mac. To export an entire project, select it and choose Export Project as New Library from the File menu. The exported library contains all of your versions, embedded images, metadata ratings, albums, faces and places data, and more. Check Consolidate Masters into Exported Library to include images that are stored outside of the current Aperture library with the new library that you're creating. With the new controls in Aperture 3, sharing images with other users and between different applications or computers is easier than ever. Easily find the photos you need in your Aperture library with the advanced filtering and search tools in Aperture 3. To filter images in a project by rating, color label, keywords, adjustments, or metadata, just type in a text search. Or use one of the options in the drop-down menu. Aperture shows only the images that match the selected criteria. For more complex searches using multiple criteria, use the Query HUD. Select additional search criteria from the Add Rule menu. For example, you can search for images based on specific adjustments that have been applied to them. To find your best black and white photos, set the rating to 4 stars or greater, and under the Adjustment search criteria, set it to Adjustments Include Black and White. In the Projects and Albums section, you'll find a few predefined searches that automatically filter your entire library. You can see just the videos in your library, or only those items that have a rating of at least 1 star. You can save your search results in a number of useful ways. Click here to create a new album that contains only the images you've found. Or use the Action menu to place your search results directly into a new book, light table, slideshow, web page, or a photo gallery ready for publishing to MobileMe, Facebook, or Flickr. Aperture's ability to search albums, projects, or the full library gives you a powerful and efficient way to find, sort, and manage your images. Aperture's Highlights and Shadows adjustment tool makes it easy to brighten or reduce highlights and shadows, so you can bring out more detail without affecting other parts of your image. You can lighten shadow areas and restore detail by moving the shadow slider to the right. Move the highlight slider to the right to bring down the highlights. The highlights slider affects the bright areas of an image, but not areas that are completely blown out. To recover those lost highlights, use the recovery slider instead. For more refined adjustments, open the Advanced Controls at the bottom of the Highlights and Shadows tile. Here you can fine-tune the effect of the Highlights and Shadows adjustments. If there's a spot in a photo where the highlights need to be lowered, but you want to leave the rest of the image untouched, set the highlight control to the level you want, and then choose Brush Highlights and Shadows from the pop-up menu on the adjustment brick. Apply the highlights adjustment by just painting it in. After you've applied the adjustment, you can still move the sliders to adjust the settings for the area that you brushed. And you can click the brush icon to reactivate the brush at any time and modify the edited area. The shadows and highlights adjustments make it easy to see fine detail in the darkest and lightest parts of your photos. The first step in using Aperture is to import images, either from your camera's media card or from a hard drive. To import images, click the Import button. When the window appears, select the volume that you want to import from. If you're importing from a hard drive, use the file browser to select the folder with your photos. The import window displays thumbnails of all the images on your card or drive. You can change the size of the thumbnails with the slider. To get a closer look at a photo before importing it, just double-click. You can press the right or left arrow keys to move through the photos in this view. You can also preview audio or video clips in this window. By default, all of the images shown in the window will be imported, but you can also select specific images to import by turning the checkbox on or off under each photo. If you want to import only certain photos, click the Uncheck All button, and then click the checkboxes for only the photos you want to include. If you select a group of photos, you can check one of their boxes, and they'll all be added to the import. Next, on the right side of the screen, choose a destination project to import your photos to. If you're moving from iPhoto, you can think of projects just like events. Now you need to copy the images into Aperture's library. To start, set the Store Files pop-up to In the Aperture library. If you're importing images that you already have on disk, you can choose to leave them in their current location. Or you can have Aperture put the files anywhere else you specify, like another hard drive. Once you've chosen the options you want, click Import to bring the selected images into Aperture. You can start browsing and editing images immediately, while Aperture continues importing them in the background. Aperture's powerful import feature allows you to get your photos onto your Mac and quickly organize them so you can get to work.